The polar vortex has driven Fox News completely insane. That is the only conclusion that I could draw when you see what they have been saying recently about climate change and electric cars, even solar panels and the sun. So first, we have Ed Henry. He is going to attempt to make an argument about how the left is lying to you about climate change here.
First, it was global warming. Then it was climate change. Now maybe extreme weather. The left keeps rolling out new terms, but pushing the same agenda.
So what you saw there is that apparently the left, which is everything, it's politicians, activists, environmentalists, it's the scientists themselves, used to just say global warming, then they changed it to climate change. Now it's just extreme weather. We can't talk about only the latest one that we can talk about. So extreme weather, that's what we have now.
So I'm glad that he acknowledges that we have all the scientists on our side. Because it used to be 97, it's now 99% of scientists believe that not only that climate change is real, but that it's man-made. So, okay, if they're the left, I guess they're the left. And they're the ones that call it climate change. And I believe extreme weather is this term that's been around for some time.
They'd like it if it were called extremist weather. That's their kind of climate change.
Call it by its right name and then we can solve it. God damn it. All right, anyway. Ed Henry, I believe that he was a neutral reporter at CNN. And now all of a sudden, like the left calls it these changing names. So it's funny how a paycheck from Fox News changes your perspective a little bit.
Yeah, I don't understand, we can keep saying it's a waste of time, but climate and weather are not the same thing. Individual acts of extreme weather are not the same as climate. But if you cared to talk to a scientist for literally 10 minutes, you would know the reasons, the scientific rationale for the idea that global climate change will inevitably lead to more instances of more intense extreme weather. And also you'd understand that it's not that people talked about global warming, then they talk about climate change. People have been using both of those terms for literally decades. One of the reasons that people who communicate about these issues have largely shifted from talking about global warming to climate change is not because of changing science, but because of moron right-wingers like the people we just saw. Global warming is an accurate description of what's happening. The global average temperature is going up consistently, but it is not only that things are getting more warm. They're also in some places getting more dry, in some places getting more wet. In some places they get colder when it gets cold. That is why we talk about the more generalized phenomenon of climate change. It does not mean that global warming isn't happening. This is a more all-inclusive term for the combination of different things we're seeing.
Look, that is not a left-wing ideology. That is what 99% of the scientists all across the world, the Chinese scientists, the Indian scientists, the American, the Bolivian, every scientist says the same thing. Now, if you choose to have a war on science and you say, oh, I don't believe in science. Okay, well, that's your call, that's fine, all right? So, but the reality is that the scientists say that it leads to more extreme weather. Climate change does.
Yeah.
And and is it warming overall? To the point John's making about weather, and weather is what happens outside your window on any given day. That is the weather. Climate happens over a long period of time. So even though it is cold today specifically in the Midwest in America, right? Not all across the world. There's actually a raging horrible fire in Australia as we speak now. Wait till you get a load of the idea of the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. When Trump hears about it, he's gonna be like, fake news. There's only one hemisphere. Oh, this cold one place, hot another. Libs, right?
I've seen the edge of the planet.
Right. So, you want to know the 4 hottest years that have ever existed as long as we have been tracking it? 2015. Wow, that was pretty recent. 2016, 2017.
It's coming right at us.
And 2018. Those are the 4 hottest years in.
But we're in for a cold one because the polar vortex is happening in 2019. I don't know, guys. I think it might be cold. I was reading about this, and like I have to say that the 3 people in the studio right now are in Los Angeles. So honestly, you shouldn't listen to anything that we're saying at all. Just turn it. No, don't turn it off. But I will say I didn't understand. It's really simple why it's so cold up in the Northeast is jet streams are changing. And when the Arctic is melting, all of that cold air and water is coming down. It's just moving toward lower where it shouldn't be, which is why you have hashtags in Chicago that are Chiberia. Like it's very scary. Like there's a reason why it's why the cold's up there and down there and not in the middle. You know, that's how life was formed on Earth.
Yeah, just real quick, Jennifer Francis, senior scientist at Woods Hole Research Center that studies climate change impacts, says that the global warming leads to a hot spot in the Arctic, which then allows the polar vortex to come down into where we live. So that's one of the reasons. By the way, that one is a little bit more in dispute. 99% of the world scientists have not studied that particular issue, and scientists are generally very conservative in their nature, not in their politics necessarily. And so whether climate change is leading to the polar vortex coming to the Midwest is an open question, but it leading to more extreme weather overall is not an open question.
Yeah, and by the way, like what you just described, if Ed Henry and whoever else was sitting next to him, if they wanted to know that and they wanted to understand that, they could do it, but it's all about how you distribute your resources. So yesterday on my show, I had Bill McKibben on, and we talked about the polar vortex. Do you know who they threw to after the clip that you saw? Some conservative radio host who doesn't know anything about science. And he was on Fox News all day. They could learn, they choose not to. And unfortunately, the consequence is that their audience also doesn't learn. Now, if we could get video 5 ready, I just want to close with this because Jesse Waters is not known for being one of the smarter people on Fox, even on Fox and Friends when he appears there. But he says something about the polar vortex that is stupid enough that we have just got to listen to it. Here it is.
They have this new Green Deal or whatever, okay, where they want to eliminate all oil and gas in 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
If you're in the polar vortex, how are you going to stay warm? With solar panels? Are you going to drive a Prius through a foot of snow? Absolutely not. And they want to tax estates. So I have to give my kids half of my estate when I die, which will be a national tragedy.
He thinks that when it's cold, solar panels don't work. Do you want to know where solar panels are used? First of all, in Chicago, they're used. In Antarctica, which is pretty cold for Earth. The Curiosity rover on Mars has solar panels on it. It's really cold on Mars, by the way.
But John, does the sun really work when it's cold?
And also, for all you working class Fox viewers, my estate will be handled by my family, okay? How many, like, if you say estate, my estate on national television, you should be off of national television.
Well, unfortunately, they're almost all on national television because they get paid so much. But Jesus, Fox, if you were paying Jesse Waters that much, because in order to have the estate tax even apply to you, even apply to a single dollar, for a couple, you have to have $22 million, according to the latest Republican proposal. So, Fox News, did you pay that talentless hack $22 million? Enough for him to be worried about his estate or do the clown? Okay.
You know, they're parodies of themselves. And you know what? I've always said this, but I think they're right. They're fanboys and girls of AOC. The Green Deal, they're super curious about it. They love that stuff. They're like, these guys have ideas and stuff. Ooh, it comes from the brain. Like, so they say. But I think they're ultimately, and I have faith, and that's why I love you guys and love this show and TYT is because I think that the right is ultimately just fangirls and boys of the left, and they're curious about progressives because they know we've got better ideas.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.